The Bible you do not know, how Jehovah's Witnesses rewrote God's Word. Imagine that you spent your whole life studying a book. That this book was the foundation for every decision you made. That you devoted to it your friendships, your education, your dreams. And then, one day, someone placed the original in front of you. And it turned out that what you had read your whole life was not the same document. That someone, deliberately, methodically, word by word, had changed the text so that it fit a predetermined theology. Not once, not twice, hundreds of times. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a documented philological fact. Today we will address the most important question you can ask as a reader of the Bible. Which translation can you trust? And why the New World Translation, the Bible of Jehovah's Witnesses, is one of the most scrutinized and challenged religious texts of the 20th and 21st century. WHO translated the Bible you read. If your doctor hid his diplomas from you, would you trust his diagnosis? Every serious Bible translation in history has one thing in common: transparency. When you open the Millennium Bible, you know who is behind it. When you pick up the English Standard Version, you have access to the full list of 105 biblical scholars who worked on it, their academic degrees, affiliations, and areas of specialization. Why does this matter? Because translating the Bible is not simply copying a text. It is a complex, years-long academic task, requiring knowledge of ancient Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic, manuscript history, and comparative linguistics. Now ask yourself one question: who translated the New World Translation? For decades, literally decades, the Watchtower Society refused to disclose the composition of the Bible Translation Committee. The official explanation was that translators wanted all glory to go to God, not to humans. That sounds pious, but it has a serious flaw. In the academic world, anonymity and the lack of verified qualifications is not humility. It is a red flag. After the death of some committee members, including Frederick Franz, who was considered the main intellectual force, it came to light that Franz had no formal academic education in biblical studies or theology that would allow him to independently translate from Greek or Hebrew. In 1954, during a court case in Scotland, Douglas Walsh versus the Watchtower Society, Franz testified under oath. When directly asked if he knew Hebrew, he answered affirmatively. When asked to translate a simple Hebrew sentence from Genesis, he could not. This is the starting point. Translation without qualifications, anonymity instead of transparency, and theology that, as we will soon see, preceded the text. God's name that does not exist in the New Testament. What would you say if someone showed you 5,500 manuscripts, and none of them contained this word? One of the distinctive features of the New World Translation is the use of the name, Jehovah, in the New Testament. It sounds harmless. After all, God has a name, the Tetragrammaton, 4 Hebrew letters JHWH, and since it appears over 6,000 times in the Old Testament, why would it not appear in the New? The reason is simple: because it is not there. Today we have over 5,500 Greek manuscripts of the New Testament. This is the largest corpus of manuscripts of any ancient text in history. We have papyri dating back to the 2nd century AD, only a few decades from the originals. In none of these 5,500 manuscripts does the Tetragrammaton appear in Hebrew writing, nor any Greek transcription as the proper name of God in the New Testament text. The authors of the New Testament, writing in Greek to a Greek-speaking audience, used the word Kyrios, meaning Lord. This was a deliberate reference to the Septuagint tradition, where the word replaced the name of God in the Greek translation of the Old Testament. The New World Translation Committee inserted the word Jehovah 237 times into the New Testament text. Without any support in any existing manuscript. Based solely on their theological decision. This is not translation. This is textual editing. The academic biblical community is unanimous on this issue. Bruce Metzger, one of the greatest authorities in New Testament textual criticism, professor at Princeton Theological Seminary, explicitly stated that inserting the Tetragrammaton into the Greek New Testament is textually unjustified. Jason Badoon, professor of religious studies at Northern Arizona University, and it is worth noting, he is not an evangelical or Catholic Christian, so bias is unlikely. In his analysis of New Testament translations, published by the academic publisher Peter Lang, identified this as one of the serious departures from the source text. John 1:1, where the manipulation begins. One small word, one huge problem, and 2,000 years of Greek that contradict it. If you had to point to one verse that best illustrates the problem with the New World Translation, many scholars would point to John 1:1. In the Greek original, en archi en ho logos, kai ho logos en pros ton theon, kai theos en ho logos. Literal translation: in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. This is how it is translated in the Millennium Bible, the Warsaw Bible, the Gdańsk Bible, the King James Version, the English Standard Version, the New International Version, the New American Standard Bible, and literally every serious academic translation into any language. The New World Translation translates it differently. And the Word was a God, lowercase. The Watchtower Society justifies this using Greek grammar rules. They claim that because the word, theos, in the last part of the sentence lacks the definite article, ho, it is an indefinite God, not the absolute God, but some lesser deity. The problem with this grammatical argument is that it is incorrect, and it is incorrect in a way that any first-year student of classical Greek should immediately recognize. Colwell's rule, formulated by E.C. Colwell in 1933 and since then a canonical part of Greek exegesis, states that predicate nouns in Greek that precede the verb regularly do not have the definite article, even when they are definite. This is a structural feature of the sentence, not evidence of indefiniteness. In other words, the lack of the article with theos in John 1:1 is grammar, not theology. And the grammar does not support the conclusion drawn by the Watchtower Society. Daniel B. Wallace, professor of New Testament Greek at Dallas Theological Seminary and author of one of the most widely used Greek textbooks, has analyzed this passage multiple times. His conclusion: the New World Translation rendering here is grammatically unjustified. There is an even more serious dimension. The Watchtower Society applied this indefinite exception only in this one verse. In the Gospel of John, there are many other places where theos appears without the article. Nowhere else did the Watchtower Society translate it as God, lowercase. This is selective exegesis. It is applying a rule where it fits theology, and ignoring it where it does not. Colossians 1:16, a word that does not exist. 4 times they added a word that is not there. And anyone can check. If someone took any known novel by Adam Mickiewicz and added a word in 4 places that Mickiewicz never wrote, then published it as a translation, it would be a literary and legal scandal. In Colossians 1:15-17, the Apostle Paul writes about Jesus. The Greek text is clear and unambiguous. For in him all things were created in the heavens and on the earth. The New World Translation renders it as, for by him all other things were created in the heavens and on the earth. And further, and all other things by him and for him were created, and he is before all other things, and by him all other things continue in existence. The word, other, is not in the Greek original. It appears 4 times. It was added by the translators. Why does this matter? Because Colossians 1:16-17 in the original text presents Christ as the creator, not a creation. Adding the word, other, changes the meaning. Now Christ is the first creation that created the remaining creations. This is exactly the theological thesis of Jehovah's Witnesses, that Jesus is the Archangel Michael, the first creation of God, not God incarnate. The translation started with a theological answer and then fit the question to it, not the text. Even Jason Badoon, whom I cited earlier as a scholar generally favorable toward the New World Translation, states in his analysis that adding the word, other, in this passage is unjustified and introduces content not present in the text. You can check it yourself. Open any interlinear edition of the Greek New Testament, digital or print. Colossians 1:16-17. Check each word. The word, other, is not there. History of revisions, when theology changes the text. They translated the same Bible 3 times, and each time it came out differently. One lesser-known fact about the New World Translation is that it has undergone significant revisions. Particularly interesting are the changes in 2013, when a significantly revised edition was released. Some changes were stylistic, but some clearly had theological motives. For example, in older versions of the New World Translation, John 1:18 read about the only begotten God, closer to the Greek, monogenes theos. In the New Revision, this phrase was changed. In Hebrews 1:6, where angels are described as paying homage to Christ, older editions used, they worship him. Newer editions changed it to, they give him homage, which clearly reduces the theological weight of the gesture. A good translation does not change as the theology of an organization changes. It changes when new manuscript evidence emerges. Meanwhile, changes in the New World Translation moved toward conformity with the teachings of the Watchtower Society, not toward new textual discoveries. Which translation to choose? A guide for seekers. After so many years of deception, how can you trust any Bible at all? This is the question faced by many who left the Jehovah's Witnesses environment. Understandable. If one Bible turned out to be manipulated, how can you trust another? The answer is paradoxically simple. Trust translations that are transparent, verifiable, and reviewed by independent scholars. In Polish, best translations. Millennium Bible, 5th edition, for readers seeking balance. Translated by Polish Catholic biblical scholars, based on the critical Greek text Novum Testamentum Grace, also known as Nestle Aland. Full transparency regarding methodology. 5th edition from 2000 is significantly improved compared to earlier editions. Widely available in Poland. Warsaw Bible, for lovers of literalness. Evangelical translation, standard in Polish Protestantism for decades. Very faithful to the original, sometimes archaic in language, but precisely this makes it valuable as a philological document. Available online for free. Modernized Gdańsk Bible, for those who value the Reformation. Update of the classical 17th century Gdańsk Bible, Reformation tradition with modernized language. A good compromise between fidelity to the text and readability. Paulist Bible, for new readers. A new Catholic translation, very accessible language, good explanatory notes. A good starting point for someone reading the Bible without prior theological bias. In English, New American Standard Bible and English Standard Version. Two of the most literal, academically respected translations in contemporary English. Used in most Western theological colleges as the basis for exegetical study. Interlinear Greek-English New Testament. For those who want to get to the core, interlinear editions pair each Greek word with the literal English equivalent. There is no room for manipulation, you see exactly what is in the text and what is not. A letter to those who feel deceived. What you feel, is justified. Now I want to speak directly to those of you who for years held the New World Translation as the only Bible you knew. Who studied from it at meetings. Who got up early to read the daily text. Who believed, with all your heart, that you held the Word of God in its pure form. What you feel now, anger, disappointment, sorrow, is justified. Not because you were foolish, but because you trusted an institution that placed its own theology above the integrity of the text. You have the right to anger. You have the right to sorrow. You have the right to questions. But you also have the right to something else, to now access the text without the organization's filter. Before anyone sat down and decided that, theos, in John 1 should be translated lowercase, there was a Greek text. There were manuscripts. There was a tradition of 2,000 years of readers who understood the text differently. Now you can join them. Without an intermediary. Without an organization telling you what the text means before you read it. The Bible you can now choose is different from the one you were given. Not because it is manipulated differently, but because it is not manipulated at all. And after so many years, this is a freedom that hurts. But it is real. Conclusion. If this material was important to you, share it with someone who is now asking, which Bible should I trust now? In the description of this video, you will find links to all cited sources, including public transcripts of the 1954 court case and digital interlinear editions that you can use for free.